If you've been walking the same old road for miles and miles, if you've been hearing the same old voice tell the same old lies, if you're trying to fill the same old holes inside, there's a better life, there's a better life. If you got pain, he's a pain taker. If you feel lost, he's a way maker. If you need freedom, a savior, he's a prison shaking savior. If you got chains, he's a chain breaker. We've all searched for the light of day in the dead of night. We've all found ourselves worn out from the same old fight. We've all run to things we know just ain't right. And there's a better life, there's a better life. If you got pain, he's a pain taker. If you feel lost, he's a way maker. If you need freedom, a savior, he's a prison shaking savior. If you got chains, oh, he's a chain breaker. If you believe it, if you receive it, if you can feel it, somebody testify. Believe it, if you receive it, if you can feel it, somebody testify, testify. If you believe it, if you receive it, if you can feel it, somebody testify. If you got pain, he's a pain taker. If you feel lost,
Good evening. We are glad you are here tonight. We're going to get things started tonight with worship. Let's stand. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow. All your ways are good. All your ways are sure. I will trust in you, Lord. Higher than my sight, high above my life. I will trust in you, Lord. In you, Lord. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. You love, I love. How you serve, I serve. This life I live, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Light unto the world, light unto my life. I will live for you, Lord. You're the one I seek, knowing I will find. All I need in you, Lord. In you, Lord. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. You love, I love. How you serve, I'll serve. This life I live, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Life everlasting, freedom for my soul. In you is joy, unending joy. And I will follow. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. You love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. This life I live, I will follow you. You love, I love. How you serve, I'll serve. This life I live, I will follow you. You love, I love. How you serve, I'll serve. This life I live, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Amen. You may be seated.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to take a moment for our offering. Our youth ushers, if they are in the house, go ahead and come forward. We're missing Mr. Tom tonight, so he did not get them together probably. As they come forward, let me just go ahead and tell us our usual thing here. If you don't know, our offering tonight, it goes toward our youth program, which is called the Meta in the back. We've been meeting back there, and so everything that we raise tonight, it all goes toward our youth ministry. But if you have a special donation, say you want to just give your regular tithe tonight, or you want to give to another area in the church, then make sure that you mark that on your envelope. If you put cash in an envelope, mark it that, or whatever the specific ministry is. Some of you, I noticed, would like to give to benevolence for our food ministry. Make sure that you mark that on your offering, so that way we know to put that into the missions offering and not into the youth ministry offering. So we're thankful to you guys for everything that you guys do and all that you give. Come on up, guys, and I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then they're going to take up the offering for tonight. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much, God, just for all that you do. Thank you, Lord, for God, for your presence. Thank you, Lord, for being able to be in this place tonight. God, we pray over all of our services and activities going on, classes going on in the back, and all these things that we have on our campus tonight, Lord. We just pray, Lord, that your name is lifted up, God, that you receive glory for everything that will happen tonight. Lord, we pray for the one in here that doesn't know you, Lord, or the two, or however many that there is that don't know you as their Lord and Savior, God, that they would make tonight a night and an opportunity, Lord, to make that move, to get closer to you, Father, to know you maybe for the very first time. I pray even for the one, Lord, that has known you, but it's been a while and they've drifted off. And God, I pray that they would find somebody tonight that would encourage them. I pray, Lord, whether that be a kid, a student, an adult, senior adult, God, whatever that looks like, whatever that may be, Lord, I pray for those conversations that you would just be in the midst with us, Lord, tonight as we worship and as we praise you. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Let our praise be your welcome. Let our songs be a sign we are here for you. bring it all to peace. Storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name, still call the sea to still, the rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, the silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Breathe, call these lungs to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, the silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is light, never lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Shout his name out tonight. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, 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 you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, the silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Amen. You may be seated.
These bones cry out, these dry bones cry for you to live and move. 'Cause only you can raise the dead, can lift my head up. Jesus, surely you will find us. Surely our Messiah will make all things new. Will make all things new.
Open to Job chapter 2. Job chapter 2 tonight. And last week, I stood up here and preached a message called The Worst Day. And we looked at Job chapter 1 and we identified Job's worst day. And I'm stalling because I'm trying to find my sermon. And hang on a minute. It's good stuff when I can find my notes. There we go. So tonight is called the worst day, day 2. Because one bad day isn't enough. Sometimes you have bad days. Bad days. So, I sat up here last week and said, we all have bad days, and how do you respond when you have a really bad day? And Job had a really bad day. And the discovery class, we'll get back to that next week. Tom's not here tonight, and he has the paperwork and all that stuff. So if you're in the discovery class, we'll kick that back next week. But Job chapter 2, we looked at, and I said we should respond with the worst days as you enter a time of worship. And we talked about that for a few minutes, and I said it's not always what you think about when you think of bad times and bad things happening in your life is going into a season of worship. To acknowledge the source. Erwin Lutzer said God often puts us in situations that are too much for us so that we can learn that no situation is too much for him. Job acknowledged everything he had come from the Lord. The Lord gave, the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And then I said the worst days should make us grow closer to God. And we should cling to God, not run from God. And then about 12 hours later, I found out one of my students died. My worst day was the day after that message. And so Monday night, I spoke at his funeral. And I talked about it quite a bit on Sunday. I said Sunday that at some point, pastors have to leave the pulpit and actually go live it out. And that's always harder to do. It's a lot easier to preach that message than to live that sometimes. So this last week has been a difficult week. Nate was 26 in perfect health and hard worker, went to church on his own at 26 years old, didn't need mama to get him out of bed on Sunday morning. He just went to church. He did all the right things. They did an autopsy and can't explain one simple thing. Have no idea why a 26-year-old comes home from work at Publix, talks to his sister at 1 o'clock in the morning because him and his sisters are just that close that even at 1 o'clock in the morning they can have phone calls. And then later that morning, Publix called and said, Nate didn't show up for work, and he's never not shown up for work. And his mom and his brother, who they had plans of getting an apartment next week together, his brother, go into his bedroom and find that Nate has passed away. And so your worst day sometimes has nothing to do with you, but it ends up being a really, really bad day. And then I turned to Job chapter 3, thinking, okay, the day's over, right? The bad stuff's over. We can move on with the happy part of life. And then we have the worst day, part 2. Let's read Job chapter 2 together. It just gets better. So don't forget, Job chapter 1, he loses all of his property, all of his children. Everything's gone. Verse 2. Chapter 2, verse 1. Again, there was a day. You ever had one of those? Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, "Where do you come from?" And Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro from the earth, and from walking back and forth." It seems like the same conversation he had with Satan in chapter 1, he's having with Satan in chapter 2. The Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, sorry. God, you already kind of put Job through the ringer. Are you going to do this again?" God says there's no one like him on earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil. And he still holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him, and to destroy him without cause. So Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. Yes, all that a man has he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, behold, he's in your hand, but spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took from himself a potsherd with which to scrape himself while he sat in the midst of the ashes. He's using a stick to scratch the boils because they itch so bad. But he said, then his wife, the awesome, encouraging woman she was, said, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. He said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Verse 11, now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this adversity that had come upon him, each one came from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. For they had made an appointment together to come and mourn with him and to comfort him. And when they raised their eyes from afar and did not recognize him, they lifted their voices and wept. And each one tore his robe and sprinkled dust on his head toward heaven. So they sat down with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his grief was very great. As if one bad day isn't enough, Job's having a bad week, isn't he? You ever had a bad week? Forget a bad day, forget about an hour, but how about a whole bad week? Seems like since last week, when I preached on spiritual warfare, I got blamed for all the spiritual warfare happening. And now I started preaching on Job, and in the last week, a very dear friend died. And then Friday happened, and then Saturday morning, we found out that the air conditioner at the church died, and that's $16,000, although it ended up costing us not quite that much. And it just seems like every day is another bit of good news. And it just makes me want to run out the back door screaming and yelling and going, God, why? And asking all the questions and doubting his goodness. But I know that's wrong. Today, our staff, I needed a break. But I didn't need to be by myself. I wanted to be with people. And so I scheduled a retreat for our staff. And it was a very spiritual time. There was much prayer. We hit a golf ball and prayed it went in the hole. So I didn't tell the staff what we were doing until this morning. We all went over to Top Golf in Brandon and spent the day and had lunch together, just hanging out and laughing. And I got there and I said, what do y'all think we're doing today? And they were all like, well, I think we're going to do some vision casting and Bible study and discipleship. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, no, we're not doing that at all. And I got over there and I said, here's the agenda. Just have fun. Just be with one another and laugh. And we're going to have lunch together and we're going to be outside, and it was a beautiful day. And then Debbie stood up, and she'd never golfed before, and she hit the golf ball, and we laughed. And then Eva screamed when she swung the golf ball, and we laughed, and the purpose was filled. But what I found as that is much and great and awesome of a time we had for a couple of hours today, we came back to church, and yet there's still all the brokenness and the heartache and the job to be done. And so it was a good reprieve. So what does chapter 2 tell us? Well, the chapter 2 of Job tells us there's still a lot going on. And the devil's busy in chapter 2, isn't he? I want to tell you three things, three people or three groups of people and their response to Job's situation. The first thing I want you to see is the enemy accuses. The enemy accuses. And the notes are in the app. Make sure you refresh the app if you open that up. But Satan comes back to give a report to God. Now, I haven't really explained or gone into detail who these sons of God and Satan, and I don't want to get into the weeds there, but understand that Satan is under the authority of God. the devil doesn't do anything Satan, or that God doesn't allow him to do. And for whatever reason, it seems that Satan has to report in to what he's doing to God. He doesn't just have free reign to do whatever he wants to do. And a second time, God brings up Job to Satan. Have you considered my servant Job? Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm Job and I find out about the first time that God mentions my name to Satan, I might be like, well, thanks God for the test, but I'm good, right? God, you really got to mention me a second time? Like I haven't been through enough? He may still be grieving, probably is grieving the loss of his children and loss of everything he had. And we know that he has because God acknowledges what Job has been through. Look back in the text. In chapter 2, he says, have you considered my servant Job? There's none like him, blameless, upright. He fears God, shuns evil, and he still holds fast to his integrity, even if you incited me to destroy him. God knows what Job has been through. God knows that Job came through it with flying colors. And yet God still says, what about Job? What about Job? It isn't like God did not know that Job had lost all that he had and lost all of his children, and yet God still says, can we continue to live out the calling that God has called us to? That's the tough part, isn't it? I mean, the tough part for Job was, do I still serve God even after I lost everything that I loved? He hadn't lost his wife, but I don't know that he loved her. I mean, my goodness. She's not the most positive one in the story. It is easy to give up when things are bad, isn't it? That's when we want to give up. It's easy to walk away. In fact, I think sometimes it'd be easiest to run away when things are bad. To run away from the faith. And I can tell you in the last week, I've questioned. All those questions I told you y'all can ask, I've asked them in the last week. And I ain't got any answers for that. All I know is that Monday night I stood up and the best I could, through tears running down my face and through broken voice, was tell people that Jesus is the way and He's the answer. Nate was a believer, and I'm so thankful for that. And it is easy to give up when things don't go our way. It's easy to give up when life just seems to come at you from all directions. Satan's accusation of Job is simple. He's accusing Job of being selfish. Here's what he says. God, this is what Satan says to God. Well, of course he's worshipped you, because he would have given up everything for his life. That is, Satan is saying, well, Job would have given his children to spare his own life. He would have given his crops to spare his own life. He could have given the animals to spare his own life. Sure, he's okay. Sure, he worshipped you because it didn't cost him anything. He's accusing Job of being selfish. Now, we know that is absolutely wrong, because there's no way that Job would have sat there and said, yeah, take my son's life instead of my own. Anybody who's a parent, if somebody came in here and said it's either you or your child, I would hope and think that most of us would say, take me, don't take my child's life. There's no way that Job is a selfish person, but yet that's the accusation from Satan, that Job would give anything for his own life. So Satan brings the same argument he used in chapter 1. If you let me touch him, if you let me do something to Job, surely he'll curse you to your face. That is, Satan saying, if you let me touch him, if you let me go farther than you let me go before, this time Job will turn and he'll curse you, God, and he'll run from you. The point is this. Satan says, if you let me make things bad enough on Job, he'll turn from you. I think sometimes that's what Satan tries to do with us. If he can make it bad enough, if he can bring enough waves of trouble, if he can bring enough waves of sorrow, maybe he'll get us to walk away. And that's what he's trying to do with Job. Don't lose this here. Satan's goal is to get us to take our eyes off of God. That's what he wants us to do. Satan's goal in your life is simple. Get your eyes off of God. And he doesn't matter where you look, okay? Most of the time he gets you looking at your own problems. Just look at yourself. Because as long as we're looking at ourselves, we're not looking to God. Satan says, if I can get you to look anywhere else other than God, then Satan is succeeding in our life. And I'm going to bring trouble and I'm going to bring issues into your life. Satan's goal in Job chapter 2 is twofold. Number one, make God a liar. That's what he's trying to do. Well, if you'll let me do this, then Job won't be blameless and he won't be righteous if you'll let me do this. And secondly, make Job's faith collapse. That is, if Satan can bring enough stuff in Job's life for Job to say, enough is enough, God. You took my family, you took my money, you took my means of income, and now I have boils from head to toe. And I'm sitting out in ashes, scratching my back with a stick. I've had enough. Curse you, go away, I don't want to hear from you. Satan wins. That's what he wanted. Why does he want that? Why does Satan so bad want Job to fail? And here's why I believe he wanted Job to fail, and this is exactly why he wants you to fail. Are you ready? It wasn't about Job's faith at all. It was about those watching Job's faith. It's about his family. It's about his friends. Satan would love nothing more than for you as a believer to curse God and walk away, and your family know about it. The lost person you work with to know about it. Satan would love nothing more for me to walk out that back door and go, you know what, the church, keep it. I'm done. Because of the impact it would have in people's lives. Satan wants us to get our eyes off of God and on all the problems around us. Does it mean we don't hurt? No, that's not what I'm saying. Does it mean that we don't deal with the problems? No, we have to deal with the problems. But in the midst of dealing with those problems, we have to go back to chapter 1, and it ought to drive us to God, it ought to drive us to worship God, it ought to drive us back to Him, not run from Him. Satan wants us to run from God in these situations. When things are going well, to be faithful. Things are going good. We've been around here, we've had some really good months. This year has been difficult. 2019 so far, we've suffered a lot of kind of big losses, right? We've suffered those in 2019. We've walked with some families. It's just been a difficult. I made the comment to Eva earlier today. I said this last week. I think this was this morning as we were heading over there. It's been difficult. She said, it's been a difficult year. And we've been able to walk these families through some of this pain. But I'm telling you, that's the times where our faith has to be at its strongest, because those are the times that we're ready to run the fastest. Our reaction to trials tells those who know us what we really believe. Job had lost his kids, his wealth, and his reputation. But in chapter 1, verse 22, even after losing all of that, it says, in all of this, Job did not sin nor charge God with wrong. He lost all of his children, all of his wealth, and his reputation in the midst, because everybody was judging him. Everybody was going, well, he must really have made God mad. He must really be in bad shape with God. And I'll tell you why I know that in just a second when we get to the second point tonight. I can tell you why I know people were talking about Job, but that's what's going on. He's lost everything, and Job becomes this pillar of faith through all of this. He didn't sin. That is, he didn't compound the problem with another problem. Isn't that what we sometimes do? We're having a bad day, so let's go home and open up a 12-pack. We're compounding one bad problem with another problem, aren't we? Well, it's been a really bad day, so I'm going to go smoke this, drink this, or go out and party all night and do whatever. We compound one problem on top of another. Can I just tell you this? I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink any of it. But let me just tell you this. It doesn't solve any problems. Marijuana is not going to solve your problems. Drugs do not solve problems. I promise you, drugs and alcohol just create problems. And if you're using that to overcome your problems, you're just compounding one problem with the next problem. There's just no way around it. You find the guy who's drunk laying in the ditch and ask him if he ever wanted to be there, I promise you he's going to tell you no. Because you don't ever want to be there. So Job didn't sin. He didn't compound one problem with the other problem. And he didn't blame God. Didn't mean he didn't question God. He just didn't blame God. You can ask the questions. Satan accuses. Secondly, the wife antagonizes. The wife antagonizes. We're introduced to Job's wife, whose name is not Encourager, by the way. She questions him basically, why do you hold on to your integrity? We might say, that why do you hold on to your faith? Someone might question you, why do you keep going to church? Your life is miserable. You have all these problems. You have all this pain. You have all this suffering. Aren't you mad at God? Why do you keep going to church? Why do you stay faithful? Why do you worship the one who could heal but chooses not to? Those are all great questions, aren't they? I got a million questions lately. There's going to be people in your life that will question a lot of things about you. They will question your decision to follow Christ. They're going to question your decision to remain faithful in difficult times. You don't think that somebody questioned Job's faithfulness or why he stayed faithful? Why? I mean, we know that his wife questioned it, right? Why do you keep your integrity? Curse God, die already. It'd be less painful. There's going to be people who question your decision to worship in the midst of pain and suffering. There's going to be those who question your decision to hold on to the truths of Scripture when all the world is going the other direction with it. There's going to be those who question your decision to accept both the bad and the good part of life as part of God's master plan. There are bad things that will come into our lives. Some of that is because we cause it. Sometimes it's the byproduct of somebody else's life. I want you to notice Job's response, and this is why I think he lost his reputation. Look at chapter 2, verse 10. He says to her, this is Job to his encouraging wife, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. So what was happening, I think, this is just Matt's opinion here, but you can kind of see it in the text. Job's wife is going down to the local women's club, and they're having conversation. And Job's heard about the conversation because what? It's foolish conversation. You speak as one of those foolish women speaks. And then he challenges her and says, shall we indeed accept good from God and shall we not accept adversity? But isn't that exactly what we do so often? First thing, he says, you speak like the foolish women. This is the gossip circle of women are sitting down there going, well, Job must have done something bad. God must really be mad at Job. You know what? I heard Job wasn't the best guy. He wasn't the best businessman. Job, I bet, beat his wife or was mean to his kids. I bet Job did all this bad stuff. And that's why all this bad stuff is happening to. That's the first thing he says. And secondly, he says, it's easy to take the good, but how quickly we want to reject adversity. This is 4 things I think we say. We don't say this out loud, but this is what we do. We want God's blessings. Amen? How about we just be obedient? That's a little tougher, right? We want God's blessing in our life, but how about our obedience? Blessings, by the way, always follow obedience. If you wonder why God hadn't blessed you and you're not obedient, then there you go. There's a simple little thing to understand. We say, God, heal me, right? God, heal me. What if God was teaching us patience? We don't like that lesson, do we? Right? God, teach me patience. We never pray that one because we're just afraid that God will actually go, oh, okay. And he likes on-the-job training much more than just learn the definition of patience, right? God, save me, but I don't want to change. God, I want my ticket out of hell. I don't want to go there, right? Nobody wants to go to hell. But discipleship, conversion, life change, transformation, sanctification? No. I just don't want to go to hell. It's easy to take the good and reject adversity. Number 4, God fix this. You ever ask God to fix something? But I don't want to do any work. God, you just do it, right? Because God can do it, right? Can't he? He can just fix things, right? It's like the person who sits at home and says, I hope I can get a job. At some point, you got to go apply, right? Man, I wish I could get some education. Well, apply and go. I wish I could get a job. Go apply. Well, I did 3 weeks ago and I hadn't got a phone call back. How many places did you apply at? 1. You might try more than 1. God, fix it. But I don't want to have to do any work in the process. We want the good of God. We want Him to bless us, heal us, save us, fix us. But we don't want to be obedient. We don't want to learn patience. We don't want to change. And we don't want to do the work. As long as God's giving, then we're okay with it. Job says, can we indeed accept good from God, but not adversity? Adversity's tough, right? Adversity is the dark days. Adversity is the like in the text, and there was that day, another day like that day. There was a Thursday, and there was that day that you got that phone call. There was that day that you lost your job. There was that day. You all have those days in your life that you know were like Job's days. We have to be willing to accept those days. And then we go back and we run to Him. So Satan accuses, the wife antagonizes, the friends assemble. The friends assemble. We're introduced to Job's 3 friends. We're going to hear a lot about them. Most of the book of Job, so we're going to be like over this. And then pretty much the rest of the book of Job is basically a conversation between Job and his 3 friends and his wife. And we're going to walk through a lot of that, but that's kind of what's happening. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. And Zophar, I can't pronounce the other parts of their name, but we'll see how that works. But we're told why they come to Job. 2 reasons: to mourn and to comfort. To mourn and to comfort. They came to mourn with him the loss of his family, but to comfort him as well in his continuing struggles. Now, I would say, there'll be some issues with them as we go through the rest of the book of Job, but these are pretty much the kind of friends that we need to have in our life. And they did 3 things for Job that the friends in your life ought to do for you, and you ought to do for your friends. And here they are, 3 things we ought to do for our friends, and hopefully our friends do for us. Number 1 is they came together. They came together for him. They just got together and said, hey, let's go support our friend. Now, I know our world is too busy to do that kind of thing, so we'll just get together and get on Facebook and pray for them. Or we'll pass some stupid meme that says, if you pass this and pray, then God will give you something. Don't ever tag me in those memes, by the way, okay? I will unfriend you if you send me that thing that says, if you pass this along in the next 10 minutes, God's going to bless you. Or that kid that has cancer is going to get a nickel if I share that thing. No, he's not. Anyway, we ought to come together. We ought to come together and encourage those that are going through difficult times. It doesn't mean that we have to, be fake about it, but we ought to come together. Number 2, they worshiped with him. Did you catch the worship? It says in chapter 2 that they tore their robe and sprinkled dust on their head. This was a sign that, remember, Job did this. He tore his robe when his children had died. That was a sign of repentance. It was a sign of grieving. And so they're doing that. They're joining in this idea of worship. See, sometimes when the person who's going through the difficult thing can't kind of focus, then we need to refocus them and help them get to the point where they can worship again. We need to help our fellow Christians, our neighbors and our family worship if they're having a difficult time worshiping. Did you know it is hard to worship during difficult times? I don't know if y'all ever experienced it. Sometimes it's hard to worship. You're hearing those songs and you're going, boy, I just want to believe that, but sometimes it's hard. And then the third thing is this, and I'm going to be here the rest of our time. Don't miss this. In fact, in the app, I gave you extra note space if you want to write this one down, okay? So the three things you do for your friend is they came together for him, they worshiped him. And the third thing is the most important thing I believe you can do with your friend, but it's also the most difficult thing, and probably none of you like to do this one, and I don't like to do this one, but I'm telling you, I've learned over the years, this is the most important thing that you can do for your friend when they're grieving and when they're going through loss and when they're suffering. It's the most important thing. So if you're in the app, put this is the most important thing to do with your friend when they're grieving or losing or suffering. And if you're writing it on paper, I want you to write, this is the most important thing to do when your friends are grieving, lost, and suffering. Are you ready? It's the most important thing. Don't lose it. Sharon, are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. What's that? You can't see your note? Okay. I'll share my sermon with you. I'll zip it to you in a minute. Here it is. Are you ready? That's it. They sat in silence. How many of y'all are really uncomfortable right now? Look back at the text. It says, so they sat down with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word. They sat in silence with him. This is the part of caring for people that we forget. They don't always want or need our advice. They do not always want or need your opinion. Sometimes they just need your presence. It's okay to sit in silence. I did my internship for my CPEs with Good Shepherd Hospice. I got sent over to an assisted living facility to visit a gentleman. And I go in my normal outgoing self. Hi, I'm Matt Gilmore. I'm a chaplain with Good Shepherd Hospice, and I'm here to see you. I am so happy to be here. And can I sit over here? I'm just going to sit over here. And I pulled up that chair next to that bed. And I sat there going, what do I say to this guy? And I just sat there. Are you doing okay today? Nothing. And then I started thinking, how long do I have to stay here? So I sat there a few more minutes. He's staring at the TV kind of blankly. I've got some other patients to go see. I'm going to leave. Nothing. And I reached up and grabbed his hand. I'm going to pray with you before I leave. And when my hand touched his hand, he grabbed a hold of it. And he didn't let go. And I'm thinking, oh, now I'm really stuck. And I sat there. We never said a word. I just sat there with him. He held my hand like 10 minutes. And then he let go. And I left. It was the most powerful visit I've ever been on. I didn't say anything. I think sometimes we forget that silence is an important part of ministry. It is an important part of sitting with friends that are suffering and just let them be there. Monday night at the funeral, I walked up to Jan Seitz, and she saw me and she stood up. What do you say? I just leaned down and I gave her a hug. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say. She She said, Matt, there's nothing else that can be said. And we just embraced, and that was it. People don't always want our advice or our opinion. They just want our presence. They saw Job was in this great distress. They didn't try to fix him. They didn't try to give their opinions yet. They're going to do that. But before they begin to spew out their knowledge and their opinions and their advice, they just sat with him. We need to learn to sit in silence with people as they mourn and be okay with that. And I promise you, that is hard to do because we're just awkward and we want to talk and we want to say something. And then usually what I find out is when we do say something, I don't know about y'all, but it always comes out wrong. It comes out and you're like, oh man, I wish I hadn't said that. That's probably why God's going, just be quiet. Job's friends assembled and just were with him. Somebody's having a bad day or week or year, just be with them. If nothing else, let them know that you're there. And that's okay. And if you have opportunity to sit with them, go sit with them. Hold their hand. Let them talk. And be quiet. Silence is awkward. Even in a room like this, if I were to just stop talking for about 5 minutes, eventually somebody's going to feel little things crawling on them and have to move. It is powerful, though, to sit with people in the presence of God and let God do the ministering through you just with your presence. Job had a couple of bad days. Things are going to get better for Job. We'll see that as we get toward the end of the book. Satan brought his accusations again. Job's going to pay a high price. He's lost most of his family, all of his wealth, his reputation. The women's center is talking about him every day at their little club meetings. His wife is now adding to the pain. Just curse God and die. Sounds like Satan, doesn't it? But his friends come. They just sit with him. Let me encourage you. If you have somebody that you know is going through a difficult time, sit with them. Just be with them. Those accusations are going to come from Satan. He's going to come and charge us and accuse us and all that craziness. There are better days to come in Job's life. And here's what I know. If you go back to the text one more time. At the end of verse 10. You speak as one of the foolish speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? And in all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Satan thought he had Job. God, you let me strike him physically, he'll curse you. Satan lost again. Job's faith held strong. And because Job's faith held strong, his friends are going to see that. And we're going to see that as we continue to walk through the book of Job. Hey, next week, Chris is preaching here on Wednesday night. He'll be in the book of Job. I gave him chapter 3. So make sure you don't miss next week. I'll be in school in North Carolina next week. I leave early Monday morning. So y'all pray for Alan. He has to get up and have me to the airport by 4:30 Monday morning. So I'll be gone all week, and I'll be back on Saturday morning. So Alan is preaching a week from Sunday. Chris is preaching Wednesday. Alan's preaching a week from Sunday. And so we get to hear some other guys preach. I'm excited to have all these guys on staff and be able to share some of the preaching with them. So y'all make sure you're back Wednesday night. I'll be watching live streaming from North Carolina. And so excited about that. Okay? Any questions about the book of Job? I know it's a little downer right now. Hang with me. It gets better. His wife, not so much, but everybody else, it gets better. What's that? No, just Job's wife. No, I was not saying all wives are that way. Oh, Lord, no, that is not what I said. It's not what I inferred. We're going to sit in silence. Sharon, we're going to have to sit in silence for a while, okay? No, we're not claiming 2 Timothy here. Listen, no, not all wives are that way. Hopefully you're not that way with your husband. You know, if he makes a mistake, you're not like, well, why don't you just curse God and die? I hope you don't do that, right? If you do that, you got to be careful because you'll be the next one to make a mistake. So anyway, let's pray. We'll be dismissed. I think the youth are going to be done early tonight, so if you've got a young person, they're probably already done. And food bank in the morning, and everything else is in the app. Yep. Oh, yeah. On Sunday, we're having a spaghetti dinner fundraiser. It's to help raise money for the kids going to Passion Camp. Our young people go to Passion Camp in like 3 weeks or something like that. And so we need some help raising some money. So Sunday after church, 11 o'clock. So if you come to 8:30 service, come to 8:30 service and then come back for lunch if you want to around noon. Otherwise, 11 o'clock service will be right after church. We'll be having spaghetti in the back. I don't think there's tickets. I think it's a love offering. It's a love offering. So bring your love, bring your empty stomach. We'll fill your stomach and take your love. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for tonight. God, I just ask you to be with each one who's here. God, I want to pray for Miss Hebert tonight, Lord. I failed to do that earlier, but God, just pray for her and her mom as they walk through these months ahead of them. God, that you would strengthen them for this time. Be with Kathy Phillips. She's home not feeling well tonight. And just others in our church who have been kind of battling some sickness. God, we just ask you to be with each one of them. Be with each one who's represented tonight. Be with us as we leave this place. Bring us back at the next appointed time. In your name we pray. Amen. Real quick, I want to announce Miss Hebert, Melissa Hebert. She's been coming here. She teaches school at Victory. We've been sending out some prayer alerts about Miss Hebert. They found out that the cancer that she has is very aggressive. They've only given her mom 4 months to live. This came out of nowhere. She went to the hospital and they found this tumor in her brain and they tried to remove it. It's fast. And so be praying for Melissa Hebert. And then there was a praise report about something. What was it? Jen, thank you. We've been praying for Jen. She ended up admitted overnight, the other night. She had heart surgery when she was a child. She had some funny chest feelings the other day. She went to the hospital. Everything checked out beautiful. Stress test came back fine. EKG was fine. She's good. So thank you for that. She wanted me to pass that on. Thank you, Sharon. And make sure if you have any prayer needs that you want them to go out, send them to Rita or to me, and we'll get those out as quickly as we can. We have to be near a computer now to do that. Sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't, but we'll get those out as soon as we can. Okay? See y'all tomorrow or Sunday.